Hi, my name's Randall Wall, past president of the Salt Lake Real Estate Investors Association, and I am so happy to welcome you guys to this wonderful time we're going to have today together. And first, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for allowing me to go to church, allowing me to worship God and to honor my religious practices. Today is my Sabbath, Saturday, so I'm killing two birds with one stone here. We have an amazing lineup. We've got just so many good people with so many real stories to tell. So much experience here is in this room with you. We have legal advice. We have Dakota, who's come all the way from Oklahoma to share how he's made millions of dollars in using seller financing and commercial real estate. And Dominique is going to walk you through some of the transactions he's done. It is an amazing time, an amazing lineup, an amazing seminar. And let's get to it. I'm going to share my screen with you and we'll get going. All right. And that should be it. So here we are today to learn about seller financing and why it should play an important part in your future. I know it played an important part in mine, and I want to share some of that with you. This was 2 years ago. This was, 2 years ago in 22. A lot of things happened in 22. We had really low interest rates up till about April, and after that, they started climbing. And so credit card debt and interest rates, they said we're both heading towards record highs. Well, guess what's happened since 22? Here in 2024, credit card debt has never been higher. Interest rates are, they're not record highs because we're not in the 80s. It's not 13% where I bought my first house, but it's definitely the highest that it's been for quite a while when it comes to buying homes. Um, there's a lot of negative news out there. The Federal Reserve is bankrupt. It's interesting. I just pulled this up, a few of these headlines. 30 seconds to midnight, the Fed just went bankrupt. The Fed is bankrupt with the Hill, $200 billion negative today and going negative 10 billion a month. $1 trillion, this is all true, by the way, $1 trillion loss in SOMA funds. That's the short-term operating management, accounts and funds. So basically at the Fed, their book value is $1 trillion higher than the market value. So this is a problem. And interestingly enough, we don't hear anything about it in the news, nothing at all. So the Fed cuts rates and interest rates keep climbing. So why does that happen? Well, the interest rates have been cut, I think, actually not twice, but 3 times this year, and we have not dropped at all. In fact, it looked like mortgage rates have gone up this month. And so why is that? Well, it's because mortgage rates don't have a lot to do with the Fed rates. They have a little bit, but they're directly correlated with the 10-year bond and 10-year bond funds. And there's a lot of worry out there in the market. So I'm going to make a prophecy. And I made this prophecy on November 7th on Facebook, which is, that's where all good prophecies come to pass, right? Is on Facebook. We prophesy, and then, later on in the future, we look back and we go, hey, I was right. Or quick, let's delete. Well, here's my prophecy. The real estate market, according to all of the statistics, is in its worst condition with fewer sales than any time since 1995, which is, about 30 years. So far worse than 2008. Those of you like me that went through 08, it sure doesn't feel like that. But what is the difference and why doesn't it feel like that? It's because the media has not told you that it's bad yet. And until it's in the news, until it's on Facebook, it just isn't true. So it doesn't matter which party you're in. It doesn't matter whether you're liberal or conservative, because the media doesn't care about the truth. It just has an agenda. And the media has been doing anything it could to support or bolster the Harris campaign here. They've yet to weigh in on market conditions with any enthusiasm anywhere. They don't tell the truth. They just spin, spin, spin. So my prediction is, my prophecy is that after the January transfer of power from Biden-Harris to Trump, we're going to see the media pull out their magnifying glasses, and we're going to see everything that's wrong in the economy. We're going to see that personal savings has never been lower, personal debt's never been higher, that even rich people are living paycheck to paycheck, all those kind of things. And they're going to focus on that, which will in turn probably affect the real estate economy negatively, as people will start to feel like it's the worst market in 30 years or the worst market that we've had since, who knows how long, 1995, I guess. So, um, for me, this is as true as it gets. Until the media says it, it's just not true. And they tend to lie a lot. So the media lies always outweigh real truths. If you cut out this social media, you cut out this nonsense, you cut out the darkness from your life, your whole paradigm shifts, right? It's something that miraculously happens. In fact, Harvard did a study that said if you just cut your Facebook time by 30 minutes a day, they could measurably see an increase in happiness in people that did so. So this was me a few years ago. Some of you saw this once before when I shared this with you. But I went to Germany to buy a castle. This is the home of Maximilian XV. It's in Preußen. It's called Schloss Preußen, which means Preußen Castle. And it's a pretty great place, to be honest. It's on about 15 acres, maybe a little bit more. It includes a number of large buildings, probably about 60,000 feet. And guess what? It was a seller finance transaction that I did or was working on in Germany. The sad part is that as soon as I had made an offer, as soon as I'd said, let's go ahead with it, I came home to, I want a divorce. The best real estate advice I can give you, the best financial advice I can give you is don't get divorced. It's a financial tsunami. Just don't do it. And some of us have had that experience 3 times because we're slow learners. So for me, seller finance got me on my feet again quickly post-divorce because I used leverage. So with my second wife, I had $8,000 when it was all said and done. It never made me happy, so I gave her the retirement, gave her everything. I'd kept $8,000. And so I used seller financing as a main player in my world and a main way to build wealth using leverage. And so after 4 years, I was up about $1.4 million. So, and that was, let's see, I got divorced from wife number 2 about 12 years ago, I think. So, yeah, so not in the far distant future or past. In this business, in this world, you are only limited by your imagination. We can see a kid here in a cardboard plane. It's awesome. And when I was a kid, we took barn wood, made a giant wing, put it on a Swin bike, pushed it up, my brothers and I, up the steepest hill we could find, built a ramp a ramp jump, I guess, at the bottom of this hill, and took off. Well, we didn't fly, but we sure had the imagination, and I sure thought we were going to. And actually, we did fly. We flew for about 5 to 10 seconds until we had an epic crash that, thank God, nobody was killed in. Seller financing doesn't require money, credit, or banks. It just needs a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of enthusiasm, and an understanding of what to do. And you're going to learn that today because we're going to share this with you. Visualize, visualize, visualize. Blind people do it all the time. And don't use the vision that Facebook gives you or the news. For Pete's sake, stay away from MSNBC and all that other nonsense. You just don't need it in your life. If blind people can find their way down the street by visualization or around their house or, see what their husband or wife looks like by feeling their face with their hands, we can certainly make seller financing work and see ourselves doing it and have success doing this. Seller financing doesn't take your money. So there's a few of you here that are going, oh yeah, it's great. This sounds wonderful, but, I don't have any money. What do I do with that? It doesn't take money. So let me tell you about a couple of deals that I've done. Seller financing takes money, but it doesn't take your money. It can take other people's money. And so I had one transaction where I wanted to buy this house on seller financing, and there was a colonel in the Air Force, a colonel now, he's my brother-in-law. And so I said, hey, Brandon, you're making all this money in the Air Force, and maybe you should put some of it to work. And so I had him bring all the money that we needed to close this deal. So he brought in $30,000 and we closed this deal, and I gave him a third of ownership in this property. And I've done that a number of times, several times with him and my sister, and it's worked out really well. In fact, we just closed on one that we put almost nothing into and walked away with about $200,000 in profits after holding it for a few years. But it doesn't take your money. In our business, we use money from Greek dentists, school teachers in Oregon, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, friends, family, whoever. You can do this. It doesn't take your money. It takes an idea. It takes knowledge. Just be a 10 in positivity and knowing that you can do this, because if you don't know everything about seller financing, that's what's wonderful about the Investor Association. Okay. There's a lot of people here who do. So if you can network, so if you look to your left and you look to your right, or right and left, or however it shows up on the screen, you can do this. You just need to do a little bit of networking. You'll find somebody out there has money, and if you can provide them with a property that's going to cash flow or be a good tax vehicle for them, you can share in those profits. I didn't give half to my brother-in-law. I gave him a third. And later on, I said, how would you like to buy 50% ownership in this property for another, I think it was $50,000. So there's a lot of things that you can do. And so we're 50-50 owners in a property in Sandy. Step out of line. Everybody is running in the opposite direction. They're listening to the media. They're listening to all this nonsense. Step out of line and go in the opposite direction. And that's what we want to teach you today. We're going to teach you how to do seller finance transaction. And this is going to change probably everything. So when I'm sitting here with my wife and kids in my home, everything is perfect. Everything is perfect until I turn on the TV or start reading on the internet. And opportunity is perfect too. I don't get discouraged. I don't lose hope. I'm happy to be a real estate investor, happy to be a real estate broker, happy to be the owner of Equity Real Estate, and enjoy everything that we have to do here. And it's only when I let the world into my world, the outside world into my world, that things get negative. For all of you sitting here today, there's probably maybe, in between 1 and 10% that will actually take action on what you learn. But if you learn just one thing from this seminar, it will be enough. One thing can create millions of dollars in wealth for you, can create freedom, can pay off college debt, student loans, credit card, whatever it is you've got going in your life. It's just one thing. So I helped my sister and her husband pay off their college debt with one flip. And this is no lie. They had a bunch of debt. He went to one of the top schools in the country in his field of psychology. And one flip, that's all it took, fix up a house and sell it. And it paid it all off and gave him a little bit extra money as well. You can do this, and I know you can do it, and you're going to enjoy this. So let's continue. So stepping out of line, you have to ask yourself, what is it going to take for mortgage rates to drop? Everybody realizes that they're up, and they're probably going to be up for a while. Forbes this month, said if you're waiting for mortgage rates to drop so that you can purchase a home or refinance the loan on the property you already own, you might be in limbo for a long, long time. Okay, that's so true. Newsweek said many Americans believe there's no way for them to feasibly get a mortgage rate below 4% with interest rates where they're at, but there's still hope. Okay. And the way to ensure you get a mortgage rate under 4% is to look for assumable mortgages. So that's one of the things you can do, is you can look for VA or FHA loans and assume those, because those can be formally assumed. Or you can do a seller finance transaction and informally assume them. But it's a great market out there, and there's a lot of opportunity. It says that only 23% of mortgages are assumable. That's formally assumable. So basically, it's like 12 million houses across America, according to the data that we've got. And within that group, about probably 7 million have interest rates under 4%. The numbers of houses that are below 4% as far as the interest rate on their loan I see different numbers out there. 80% is commonly quoted. Others are 65 to 70, but it's high. It's way over half. Step out of line and look for those opportunities. Okay. So in 2022, when I first captured this, it said as inflation heats up, 64% of Americans are now living paycheck to paycheck. And you have to ask yourself, have things gotten better or have they gotten worse? I know as a real estate broker and a real estate agent that a 1% move in the interest rate correlates to an 11% decrease in buyers. And when we went from 4% to 7%, that's 3%. It's about a 33% decrease in buyers. We lost a third of the market at least. And the interest rates at the beginning of the year were even lower. So somewhere between 30 and 40% of the buyers that we had in 2022 are available to us today. Is that a problem or an opportunity? Okay. More Americans living paycheck to paycheck than 5 years ago, Bank of America data shows. Again, problem or opportunity? Even wealthy households are living paycheck to paycheck. These are homes that are earning more than $150,000, is what they call wealthy. I would urge you to see less problem and see more opportunity. Sure, it's a problem. It's a problem when interest rates are high. It's a problem when you're, burning through your paycheck really quick. It's a problem when prices have gone up in everything, despite what the government tries to tell you. I've seen eggs go from $7 to $30, and I think it's down to 14 now for a 5 dozen, pack at Walmart. That's double still. I mean, it went way up and then came down. It's still double what it was 2 years ago. So these are opportunities. Look at these as opportunities. Yeah, it could be a problem, but see the opportunity. All right. So this opportunity is all the way around you. So it says 80% of existing mortgages had rates below 5% as of early 2024, with a substantial portion below 4%. I've heard as high as 65 to 70%. So step out of line, okay? Don't let your fear take hold of you. Everybody else is running in fear. The economy sucks, life sucks, whatever is bad, whatever in the news tells them to think, that's what they're thinking. Step out of line, do an about face, and march in the direction of success. Because your future awaits. Your future is knocking. Your future success is knocking. When I only had $8,000, I could have said, oh my gosh, I just lost my retirement. I just, gave up everything. I was foolish. I was stupid. I was whatever. I didn't waste a minute doing that. I jumped right into it and just, pulled the trigger on deal after deal after deal and let leverage work for me. And if opportunity doesn't knock, then build a freaking door. Okay. Build a door. Now, American jobs aren't going to return to pre-pandemic levels until 2024, is something they said in February of 2021. Well, I think we've got a decent jobs market, but the news isn't always right. And that's the point with this. Problem or opportunity? So let's look on the MLS. I pulled this up today. All right. There's 11,000 homes, just over 11,000 homes for sale. That's a lot of homes and not nearly, that many buyers that are in play. But I threw these things in here that looked like they were indicative of seller financing sellers or sellers that would at least consider it. Qualifying assumptions, simple or qualifying. So simple assumption is we just buy it and we're off to the races. The other one, you have to qualify and go through the same level of qualification as the original borrower did. If it's an FHA loan, those are all assumable. Okay. If they're looking at lease options of any kind, whether it's monthly or yearly, they're thinking seller financing. It's a possibility. Owner second, seller financing. Seller financing outright stated. Seller willing to subordinate means that they're going to finance part or some of that transaction. In fact, out of those 11,000 transactions, it doesn't have to say seller financing or lease option or anything else in it. You go to them because most of the transactions on the MLS that we have done where seller financing was involved, and we've done a lot of those, it wasn't listed that way. We just asked. So ask. If you don't ask, The answer is always going to be no. It's important to ask, because if you can ask somebody and have a dialogue with somebody, you can find out what's important to them. Now, Trevor Thompson is probably one of the best closers I know. He's been working with me for years. He's amazing. He's going to talk to you about how to close those sellers and how to make this deal happen. But there's two things that I know. The confused mind always says no. And if you ask, you're never going to see results. And I can remember some of you guys probably saw a picture of me on Facebook, but I've got my arm around Miss America, and back in 2016, and people go, Randall, how did that happen? My friend says, how did that happen? She's 26, I was 53, I think, something like that at the time. And I said, I asked. Well, you guys were all afraid to ask her. I did. And Josh Christensen, who's on my team and we work well together, lives down the street from Charlene Wells, who was Miss America. I think it was 1980. I was in Spain with her brother, I think, and her brother or cousin, I can't remember. Anyway, Jeff Carter. It must have been Jeff Carter. And in any event, somebody asked her, said, how many times did you date in college? She went to BYU. How many times did you go out on a date? And she said, I went out one time. Nobody asked me. All the guys were intimidated. So here's the thing. If you want to hit it big in real estate, if you want to date beautiful women, or you want to have success in life, go for it. Ask. What's the worst thing they're going to say? No. Okay. So if you don't remember anything else, remember that. Ask. The worst thing they can say is no. All right. So here we are back to it. And so we have all these listings. Some of them will come up like this, where it's really clear. Here's some remarks. This was on entered the 19th. I think I pulled this a day or two ago. So it's still fresh. Maybe it's still there. I don't know. But down in the remarks section, it says, explore flexible seller financing options on this charming single level home in Kearns, with either a very low down payment or a standard down payment of 15 to 20%. They're giving you a choice. They're expecting even less than that. This is amazing, and it's all done for you here. You can do these anywhere. So this is up in Canyon Rim. These are great neighborhoods. We did this one in Canyon Rim. It was awesome. Harvard Yale, another one. West Valley, another one. I like this one a lot. Galen Morley was a postal worker who retired and wanted to go to St. George. And so I went to meet with him. He responded to a mailer, I think it was. And he says, what can you do for me, Randall? And I said, well, to Galen, how much money do you need down? What would you like? He says, well, I need about $3,000 for a moving truck. I said, done. And he said, that sounds great to me. And so he seller financed this property to me, and I held it for a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years, 4 years. Sold it, took a fat check out of it. I think it was 6 figures again. So 3,000 to 100,000 or more is a pretty good deal. This one was even better. This was a couple who had been together for 9 years, never married, and he decided that one girlfriend wasn't enough and went out and found another one. And so the problem is right where these 3 windows are that you can see, he had stripped the walls down to the studs. And so there was no way this house was qualifying for conventional or FHA financing. And nobody would touch it. The market wasn't wonderful, etc. And they called me up, and so I went in, and the girl's crying, and I'm a sucker for crying women. Yeah. Anyway, just ask my ex-wife who got everything. But if I can help, I will. And so I went in and said, yeah, I'll do it, but I can't put any money down on it. I need to put repairs and other stuff into it. They said no problem. Both of them signed off on it. We were off to the races. I fixed it. I rented it for nice cash flow for a number of years, probably 4 or 5 years, and then sold it for a fat profit. In Sandy, I did both these houses. In fact, I'm living in this one with that huge garage. It's as big as the house. You can see it there. It's they must have taken this picture. I pulled this off of Google Earth when it was really dry. But I did this house that I'm living in. Actually, I'm selling it this month. I seller financed that for 200 and just barely over 200,000, like 230. with $30,000 down. The appraisal came in. I got a message from the buyer today who said, guess what? The appraisal came in at 770. So I was like, woohoo, we're good. Same thing with this one over here. Put $30,000 down on that one, I think, on Opal Circle, and flipped that for, and at the time that was the highest, the highest selling price house in our area, or in that area out there in Sandy, right on Dimpledale Canyon. So there's a lot that you can do. And what was interesting was I saw this guy moving out. He was an older guy, an old English feller that had been in our neighborhood for a while. And I said, hey, you're moving? He says, yeah. And I said, what are you doing at the house? He says, well, I've talked to an agent, but the house is full of crap. And it was. I think he was a hoarder and hadn't moved a lot of stuff out in 50 years. But I said, well, Malcolm, here's the deal. You've been a good neighbor. I'll list your house for free. And I do that occasionally for people I like or people I want to help. And so I'll list your house for free. And, if you want to list it, but how about he says, oh, I don't know if I want to list it. I don't think I can handle the thoughts of trying to clean it up. And I said, I'll tell you what, I was getting ready to go to Nepal to work in our charity because, I do often, and we do it every year for a few months. I said, I'll send, my team member Trevor over, Super Trevor, and you talk to him and he'll make you an offer. And if you like the offer, great, we'll buy your house at whatever he tells you. If not, I'll sell it to you for free. And he decided he wanted to sell that house to us with seller financing. And I think it was about 30,000 down. So these deals are good. This one here, Trevor negotiated an amazing one on this. 20,000 down, no payments for 6 months. It was a little rough. Purchase price was $386,000. Okay. Well, out there in West Jordan. So the question is, how do we make $100,000 at closing when we only put $20,000 down and no payments for 6 months? Well, Trevor noticed that this guy in the back, and you can kind of see it here, is a couple of dump trucks and backhoe and some other stuff back there. He didn't have enough room to park all of his stuff. And so this was a really deep lot. And so Trevor said, how would you like to take the back? I think it was 28 feet for $100,000. Actually, I think he said 110. So we might have got more than 100,000, but the guy thought it was a pretty good deal. So we went to closing, and we closed with the seller here and closed with the neighbor back here and collected $100,000 for a lot split, which did not and does not affect the value of the house at all, because land just doesn't contribute much to home value. 90% of college students went this way. So there was a study that was done, and I had dinner with William Denko, who is the author of The Millionaire Next Door, Princeton professor, largest study ever done on wealth in America. And there were some people there, and some people that we talked to afterwards said, 90% of college students want to own their own business. No, it's not 90, it was 85. 85% of college students want to own their own business. But 4 years later, that number drops to between 8 and 9%, because they have been told that you have to go this way, that it takes money to make money, that that you can't do it without a college degree, you can't do it without some specialized training, etc. Well, I'm here to tell you that 8 to 9%, the people that turn around and do an about face in the opposite direction, that's the direction of success. The people in gray, they're all working for wages somewhere. And success is something better. Success for me is doing what you want, when you want, where you want. Okay? That is the true measure of success. And we've done this hundreds and hundreds of times. There's Josh, Trevor, Ingrid, William, myself, my wife. Between Josh and I and our team, I think we've done real estate in like 3 or 4 countries. Fish farms, oil wells, assisted living, in Asia, buildings, etc. There's a lot of amazing things you can do. And you can do seller finance. I've never seen a country where I couldn't do seller financing. We're going to teach you today, and some of these guys are so much better than I am at this. we're going to teach you to spin straw into gold, how you're going to be able to create something special for you and your family. Does that sound like something that would be of interest to you? You have to ask yourself, what do I really want? What am I looking for? And where am I going? Because if you don't want anything and you don't dream anything and you can't imagine anything, you're just going to float along with the tide or with the current, which means you're probably going to continue to do just the same old things that you're doing now. And so there's a better life waiting for you out there. There's something a lot better. And so we want to be part of that. We want to share what we've got with you and help you achieve something greater. So let's talk about the types of seller financing, since I'm giving you the broad overview and the introduction before the guys take you to the in-depth part of it. So there's seller financing contracts and outright purchases. So bond for deed or land installment contract, that's where the property stays in the name of the seller until the buyer pays it off or refinances. But the buyer gets all of the equitable title, interest, ownership in the property, all the ownership rights in the property. So that the buyer has equitable title, equitable ownership in the property. So they get all the tax benefits. If they rent the property, they get, to collect all the rents. All that the seller gets is what they've agreed to before the buyer purchased it. So it's a bond for deed or land installment contract. They use bond for deed back in the Midwest a lot and back east. Trust deed note, that's how most houses are sold here with bank loans, et cetera. And you can actually do this with seller finance. Or a wraparound mortgage with a trust deed. Now, I like using trust, to be honest. So I will wrap a mortgage around an existing trust deed most often, and then we'll put that into a trust so nobody knows who we are. There's some legal benefits with that. I think Jeff Braglio is going to talk about that today. Jeff is a wealth of knowledge, has been doing these forever, and so you want to talk to him about this and ask him some questions on it. Then there's the rent to own. There's the lease option, which is basically, rent to own, and a master lease option and a master lease. So the lease option, it just goes like this. You give them a little money for the option to buy the purchase the home on or before a specific date in the future. And you can either do it by that time at that price you've agreed on previously, or you can pass. You don't have to, and they just keep the option money. A master lease is where somebody would come in, and so I set this up in Kathmandu. There was a hotel that was poorly run. It was dirty. It was, poorly run, but in a great location, right in the main gateway to Tamil, which is one of the tourist areas in Kathmandu. And so I set up a master lease scenario where we would come in and we would pay the owners of this property a certain amount per month that they would be able to count on as income. And then everything that I got on top of it, or everything that we were able to do on top of that, and the returns we were able to get. So for example, we give them $6,000 a month, and then we're able to make 15 or 20 because we're good at marketing, clean the place up, put good staff in place. That's a master lease. Okay. I don't have ownership, but I'm making money from it. And it's a type of seller financing. Or there's the master lease, option where you have the option to buy the property as well as to, benefit from leasing or subleasing the property after you've leased it. One of my favorite stories is I've got one of my agents who's a great guy, LeBeau White, very sharp guy. He knew some people that were going on an LDS mission as mission presidents. I think it's 3 years. And so they spent 3 years out of the country. They wanted somebody to, give them a little bit of income and watch over the house. And so LeBeau said, I'll do that. And so he signed a master lease with them that allowed him to sublease the property to somebody else. So in his lease, the owners agreed to take care of all repairs over $100. And in his sublease to the renters, they agreed to make all repairs under $100. And so LeBeau didn't have to come out with anything out of pocket if anything was needed. And what was interesting about this was the difference between the lease that he got from the people out of the country on a mission and the sublease of the people that rented it for 3 years was $1,000 a month. So he put no money into this, signed it up, did the paperwork, and collected $36,000. That's an infinite rate of return. And I've seen people that have actually made a living of doing almost exclusively this. In fact, Whitney Patton did that for years, had a little program that she would sell and would come and talk, and just, really good woman. But she focused on that for a long, long time. So there's a lot that you can do out there. You're only limited by your imagination, your willingness to work, and to keep a positive attitude, because where everybody else is seeing grief in their life and seeing, the whole world's going to pot, there's some opportunity there as well. So make sure you're seeing that too. So every situation is different. How you choose to do a seller finance transaction is up to you. The guys are going to talk to you about some of the ways to do that, and it's a good thing. And people might say, well, what are the pros and cons, especially when it comes to sellers? So the benefits for the sellers are, quick closing. They get to make payments, income over time, taxes over time. All buyers qualify. They can, they've got leverage against the property for future repossession. So if you invest in the stock market and the stock, goes down, or the company goes out of business, ask me how I know. You got nothing. But here, if somebody stops paying you, you just take the property back. It provides cash at closing and payments. It's easy to sell. Even bad property sells easy. So if you've got a property that's not selling, the seller or you may owe too much on the property and you just need to get rid of it at top dollar, seller finance it, and you're going to get, better returns than other investments in the market typically. And there's no property management. And the benefits for the buyer is, everybody qualifies. It's easy to close. It's a, quick purchase, no mortgage insurance, no PMI. It's low closing costs, no lender's fees, little or no money down. I would say if you're working with somebody else, plan on putting something down. Probably the vast majority of what we've done over the years has been at least 10,000 down, probably between 10 and 30, I would guess. But sometimes it's more, sometimes it can be less. So you just negotiate those terms. In fact, those two houses in Sandy, we actually did another seller finance property just a block away. So, yeah, they're there if you just look. And I think all I did was just keep my ears, eyes open, and my ears, my eyes open and my ears peeled, as they say, and found somebody else that wanted to do it. So it's a good thing. And it can be lower interest rates. There's a lot of benefits. So some of the additional seller benefits are you sell for the top price, as I already mentioned, even in a declining market. Your buyer pool isn't, down by a third or 40% like we talked about earlier. It increases because, everybody can qualify if you want them to. And you can collect additional interest income. You can defer tax payments over time. You sell to who you want to. So here's a bonus strategy that's actually pretty good. So my son, when he bought his house, was about $500,000. I think they put maybe $25,000 down on it. And this is what payments look like at 3.5%. So at 3.5% on a $500,000 home with, 25,000 down. I didn't figure taxes or insurance in here. This was just the payments and interest, the principal and interest. So it's $2,100 a month. Okay. Well, if I raise the rate to a buyer, if I sell or finance this house that I have at 3.5% to somebody else at 5%, well, then the payment's $2,523. So I'm going to cash flow about $410 a month. If it's at 6%, which is lower than what we've got now, it's $2,817, which is, that's $707 a month. So you can boost the interest rate and create a monthly cash flow that really adds up. Even if you're not getting a lot on the spread, let's say that, you can't raise the purchase price a lot higher, you can always fiddle with the interest. And if you fiddle with the interest, sometimes it plays a pretty decent tune and you feel like you won the lottery. More buyer benefits, again, they can afford more than a house than they can at 6.5%. It's not dependent on credit. more flexibility, same ownership benefits as traditional mortgages and buyers. There's tax benefits of buying versus renting, and no limit on that number of houses you can buy. So, yeah. Oh, and one thing is you can get down payment from any source, even credit cards, or trade something. Sometimes we've seen deals where somebody traded something, a boat, a sailboat, or motorcycle, etc. The sky is the limit. I remember going to somebody's house who was in trouble and really wanted us to buy their house. And the woman came out decked in jewelry and started pulling off diamond rings and bracelets and said, I'll give you this and this and this to sweeten the deal. So sometimes they'll pay you to buy their house on seller financing. And again, no PMI. So the rent tones, again, lease option, master lease option, master lease, etc. That sandwich lease, this is just a little, recap here. So the lease, like we're talking about with the people on the mission, is the bread. All right. The sublease is the renters that came in while they're on their mission. And the profit is the spread between the two. Okay. So basically, it can be a really good thing. Dakota is going to talk about how creative you can get and how somebody who was a pizza delivery boy when we first ran into each other and met, cashed a check for about $7 million, I think 5 years later. So Dakota is one of my best friends, my brother, like my little brother, maybe my best friend, and is just a super guy, very creative, very knowledgeable, very humble, learns from others. And he's going to give you some really valuable information that I think I paid $1,000 to go to a seminar and hear. So he's coming up. One thing that people always ask me about seller financing, what about the due on sale costs? And I say, who cares? Because in the contract, it says the lender may, at its option, call all sums due and payable. A while back, some real estate agents were running around because somebody down at UAR, and I got to be honest, yes, I own equity. Yes, I'm a member of UAR. Yes, I'm a member of NAR. But I would never trust any of those people to give you good information on anything, to be honest. NAR or the UAR, even UAR is much better than NAR. Nobody's calling notes due. How do you tell if banks are calling notes due? Because some people are like, well, the interest rates are going up. They're at 7%. The banks are going to start calling those notes due. Call the title companies because they're involved in every one of those loan accelerations. All right. They know when the notes are being called due and they're not calling them due. I've talked to title people in Colorado, in Utah, in other places. No bank is calling these notes due because the banks are in trouble. You remember the Federal Reserve's bankrupt? Well, a lot of the banks, including Zions Bank and US Bank and other banks where we all bank, a lot of us bank, they've been on a watch list. They've had some issues, So if somebody's making those payments, those people are sitting on commercial property that's not selling, that nobody is renting. They're in trouble there. They don't want to, create a bigger problem for themselves. That's my opinion. But the one thing I can say that's not opinion is those loans just aren't getting called due. I haven't seen it at all. There's no due on sale jail. That's the thing to remember. There's just no due on sale jail. And the Garn-St. Germain Act of 1982 says basically in a nutshell that you can put the property into a trust for your own benefit without the bank calling that loan due. Now, that's typically the original borrower that can do that, but the bank doesn't know it. They don't know who's in the trust. I had a property where we got a call from the bank, said, "Oh, it looks like you've changed title, etc." And I said, "Yeah, for the benefit of the sellers," which was true. I never lie. They did it for their benefit, for their own financial benefit. Garn-St. Germain Act of 1982 says that they can do that without having the note called due. Sent a copy of that to the bank and never heard from them again. You just have to disclose. So you need disclosure when you're doing a seller financing. Just make sure that you disclose to a buyer, if you're on the sales side, that there is the possibility of a due on sale clause. So I like to have good disclosures. And then there's some Dodd-Frank exemptions. I wouldn't worry about this too much unless you're doing it all the time, because one person can do a deal a year per natural person, right? So if you do it for a deal a year, you don't have to worry about it. Under Dodd-Frank, you can do 3 transactions a year. So if you're going to do a few more seller finance deals where you're selling it, this isn't for the buyer, this is for the seller. There's some limitations, like you can't have, you got to be careful on a balloon payment. You have to qualify them using 8 steps, and you can ask Jeff or ask a title company or somebody. They should be able to clue you in on that. But I've never seen anybody hammered for that, not on our level anyway. So there's a couple of those things to be aware of, but it's pretty simple to qualify somebody. And if you run into trouble, go get a mortgage guy to do it. He'll do it for you. Give him a few bucks, and he can look at their numbers. And that qualification doesn't mean the same qualification that a regular bank means. It just means that you made a good faith effort to qualify them, make sure they could actually afford to buy the house that they're buying and to purchase that house. So that's just something to be aware of. So let's see here. Oh yeah, 43% back-end ratio. So basically you're documenting this due diligence, you're doing this 8-part test. Here's the 8-part test, reasonably expected income or assets, current employment, monthly payment on the proposed, mortgage, payment on other loans, just payments, and then their debt obligations and the monthly debt to income ratio, residual income, credit history, et cetera, at 43%. That's it. Well, seller financing is an amazing tool. I'm glad you're all here learning. Thank you again for allowing me to go to church, and honor the Lord, and to do those things that I think are right, and be able to share some of my experience with you. You're going to be privy to a wealth of learning here. And one thing I'd like to tell you is that the confused mind always says no. So I wrote this article called Seller Financing for a magazine, Where's the Mystery? I did that probably 10 years ago or 15 years ago. I think I can give that to Dominique, and maybe we can put it on our website so you can access that. It helps explain a lot of things for buyers and sellers. Always get a title company involved. There's no better title company than GT Title. Christina Moser is who I would use. I mean, she's, my favorite person to use on these type of transaction. Cover your assets. Okay, that's important. And the best way to do that is to have a lot of CYAs. Jeff can help you. Other people can help you. I use a CYA that's several pages long. Never listen to those attorneys from back east that are trying to sell you the 1-page contract or 2-page contract. I think our contracts have probably 15 pages, and we've never lost a deal because we have long contracts. It's just very helpful. I could probably share this with some people with the understanding that it's just educational. I'm not an attorney. It's just something that I've come up with. I've had half a dozen attorneys help me with it over the years that I like, and it's been a good thing. And then come find me. I'm going to be in Nepal. I'm going to be in Nepal after the end of the year, and we're going to be over there doing some charity work. We've got another trip on February 9th to the 19th in 2024. It would be fun. We bring a lot of people over there. You can ask Dakota about that. It's 10 days in country, and we work in the charity with helping children as well as sightseeing. So, if you want to see tigers and ride elephants and see the 8 tallest mountains in the world, it's a great place to be. And I look forward to seeing you there. I love people that come with us, and reach out to me on Facebook. Randall Craig Wall is my name, and I think I can share this with you. I'll show you what it looks like here. So if I was going to share the screen here really quick, I'll just show you what my Facebook page looks like so you can kind of take a look at it there. But that's me, the little Asian fat kid with a bowl of rice running, and with a beautiful wife there, and my little baby. So in any event, it's been wonderful spending this time with you, and feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'm happy to help and answer questions. Have a great day, and enjoy the rest of this amazing seminar.